Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're looking at NBA best bets here on a Wednesday with a lot of games here on the slate here. Nice full slate with 11 of them to choose from. Also got player props up in a separate episode, so make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us all season, and don't miss any of these episodes. We're bringing you each and every weekday. Little bet better here, 3-1 on the best bets here. So nice day. We'll keep it rolling here as we get a lot to choose from, like we said. So let's run into your first best bet for the day here, Nate.
Yeah, good slate last night. Tough luck on the player props for you as you were scratched mid sentence basically and scrambled there. But I like the Cavs. It opened -5. It's up to 6 here most spots, but I think it's fine to keep playing this up to 7.5. I think they bounced back in a major way after losing to the Celtics last night. It's kind of the opposite of like the Memphis Grizzlies, where you play a bruising game against them. Like it's a total finesse game against the Celtics. And you're just kind of sharpened on both ends. So I think you see teams play better immediately after playing the Celtics. And certainly the Cavs, I mean, they had a back-to-back in November after losing to the Celtics and won by 28. And they've been good on back-to-backs in general. Plus 11 margin of victory, 8-2 straight up, 7-2 against the spread on a rest disadvantage. Detroit, weirdly, is better with the rest disadvantage as well because they're a young team. And I don't think they're going to necessarily have much success here because it is just a bad matchup for them on both sides of the ball. Like I wish they hadn't lost so decisively last time because you get even more value here. But like I don't see a Cade centric team having much success against the Cavs, who are like trying to get you to shoot in the mid range, allow the most attempts, but the 5th best percentage, an elite rim defense. It's just like, where else do the Pistons manufacture offense? This is like all they're doing around Cade, who went 9 for 26 the other week as they got beat down, only scored 91 against Cleveland. He's now averaging under 24 with a 104 rating in his last 4 against the Cavs. I mean, the Cavs are weakest against the corner 3, and they have some issues above the break 3. Well, the Pistons are just abysmal shooting the 3 recently. 31%, 5th worst on both sides there. They're scoring the 2nd highest percentage of paint points in their last 10. That is why they're 4-6 straight up, as teams just realize like they can't really beat us from the perimeter. I mean, their last kind of wins in this stretch have been against wounded teams like Atlanta right after losing their guys, Dallas before they blew it up, and the Bulls, who were trading guys. and then, I mean, Cleveland dominated them in that game despite shooting 27% from 3, which is usually not what you would say with the Cavs. It's like they got to shoot at least pretty good, but it's because of their defense, because they just like aren't going to allow the only thing the Pistons can really do. And then on the other end, the Pistons pack it in. They're going to dare you. They allow the worst percentage from above the break 3 on the season. They're going to dare you to hit shots. And the Cavs, like I said, like they're sharpened by playing the Celtics. They started hitting shots after a slow start last night. And I think that rolls right over here. And they just kind of, blow up. They potentially blow up here. But either way, their defense, I think, gets them the win.
Yeah, I think it's a great look. I mean, the situation is actually really good, to your point, and especially the way that things played out in that Boston game last night. So I fully agree. You just take this momentum, run with it into a team that you are better than, and that they need to score. Basically, it's just like they're just sort of like a trap. They're just sitting there waiting for Cade and being like, yeah, man, come do your thing here. Come on in. You can come take these shots. We're also going to give up the spot up. So if you want to go ahead and pass it out, and we'll watch Malik Beasley and THJ shoot some threes. We're not really worried about that either. So I fully agree that they should be having some success here based on the way their defense is just going to funnel things where it wants it to be and allow the Cade Cunninghams, the fighting Cade Cunninghams, as we'll call them in this game, to do his thing. But it's just going to be trading 2s for 3s and not getting as many possessions as well, as how I would see that going. So let's go over to Orlando Sac, and both of us targeting this game going. I know you like the team total here for Sacramento to go over, mostly because this is just a walking over team, but we can't trust the worst offense in the league right now in the Orlando Magic to come along. So my official pick is that I like the Kings, despite this being maybe some weirdness with Zach LaVine coming in his first game. I like them to cover 5.5 points in this one, and I think that's really just going to be heavily predicated on no Jalen Suggs. That's really what my research for this game has really taught me, is Jalen Suggs is so freaking important to this team that we have not been giving him that credit. And we started to a little bit. We were like, wow, the Magic don't have Franz. They don't have Paolo. Jalen Suggs is carrying his band of married men who are also injured. Like Gary Harris wasn't even around. A lot of Jonathan Isaac wasn't around. And Jalen Suggs just willing this team to victory with his incredible nonstop motor is really what it comes down to. And so with Jalen Suggs this season, who is doubtful and not likely to play in this game, they are 20-15 with him. Dude, they're 4-12 without him. And like, look, there's a lot of Paolo and Franz overlap and under and not playing and playing in that time frame. One consistent is Jalen Suggs is on the floor doing his thing. And to be fair, Goga Batadze, Wendell Carter Jr. coming along as well for that ride. But now without Suggs, 4-12, 98.5 points per game on a 103.8 offensive rating. So it's a lot of numbers to say they can't score without Jalen Suggs on the floor. They have a 114 defensive rating without him, allowing 108 points per game. With him, which by the way sounds pretty good because that's how good and slow the Magic play, 108 points per game. But with him, they're looking at about 7 more points per game and a 5 fewer points allowed. So basically like a 12-point swing with and without Jalen Suggs this season on both sides of the courts. It's crazy. They are dead last in their last 10 since they started getting this iteration of their team back into the lineup. They're 1-9 straight up, 1-9 against the spread in their last 10 games. Paolo and Franz back for Paolo back for that, Franz back for most of that. Dead last in offensive rating, dead last in three-point shooting. And this is all going against like the 8th easiest strength of schedule over the course of these last 10 games. They have not been playing too many of these really good teams, right? Losing to this West Coast trip has really been tough for them is what we're trying to say, right? They're just getting worked here as they come west out of Orlando, and it's just been bad. They're away dogs. They are just struggling. 4-10 against the spread as away dogs, 2-12 straight up in those situations, Nate. So despite the unknown with LaVine, look, I'd like to say he knows DeMar, and at least they're going to be on the floor together. They weren't exactly great together on the floor last year. So let's see if Doug Christie and company can kind of figure things out with them. But either way, they're going to be playing fast. They're going to be able to get to the rim against this team as well for Orlando, who has struggled a lot down there. So I just like everything for Sack to make some shots and be able to get to the rim, like I said.
Yeah, the team total is only 112.5 for the Kings, which I like as well. But yeah, I don't think we expect Orlando, which hasn't been able to get to 100 the last 3, to cover if the Kings are able to approach that team total. So either way you want to play it makes sense. I'd kind of hedge against Paolo and Franz getting this thing together and playing some offense, but at the same time, it's the front end of a road back to back on this road trip that you're talking about, where Orlando's just been struggling. Maybe they pull the plug early, or maybe you look to bet the line early when they're in Denver tomorrow. And if they actually are in a close one here at Sacramento, then they're going to be cooked tomorrow, just absolutely roasted by Joker and company.
Yeah, let's get that Joker, Denver first quarter, first half, something like that, probably as well. I'm gonna like that.
Get in the account, get it lined up. So I'll take the other part of that trade for LaVine and De'Aaron Fox and the Spurs, -4.5 in Atlanta. Definitely, consider him at 28.5 points assists in the debut. I think he's going to be a full go, and Chris Paul, might even like make up an injury if he's actually going to get moved or bought out here eventually, and just kind of usher in the new era. But I mean, this is a cap against Trae Young because the Hawks are absolutely desperate for offense without Jalen Johnson. It's just all Trae Young again, and he just has not been good against De'Aaron Fox. He has killed the Spurs his last 4, but Fox is a tough matchup for him. Last 4 against the Hawks, against the Kings, the Hawks are 1-3. Young is -29. He shot 30% from 3, under 20 points. Fox on the other side is +40. He scored 25.5. He shot 46% from 3. He adds an injection of perimeter shooting and playmaking that the Spurs didn't have, in athleticism. That they had in Castle, but like that you lack when you have CP3 out there running this slow show. We got the total way up here. I don't think the Hawks can play that kind of ball and win. I know they beat the Pistons that way, but their defense, still gave up 64 paint points, nearly 40 free throw attempts to a Pistons team that I just talked about how limited they are. It's because they don't have Jalen Johnson. It's because Okongwu, it is not effective in this starting role. Like he's a nice like energy boost off the bench, but man, he is just like, he ain't ready for what Wemby's going to throw down here against him after dropping 42 in December against the Hawks. It's a little bit of buy low for the Spurs, who are 2-7 in their last 9. Yes, but Memphis 3 times. Miami, who has their number with Bam, twice. A Paris trip in there, which is just weird stuff. And then the Clippers, who, of course, are very well coached. And I mean, Atlanta is just struggling without JJ. They're 5-9. They score 5 fewer points a game. And the Spurs tend, when the books identify that the Spurs should be favored, they tend to take care of it. 11-4 straight up, 4-1 straight up as road favorites this year. Now they have Fox, who could, very much shine in his debut. He's won his last 2 in Atlanta, again with the Kings over Trae Young. I think he wins that matchup again.
Yeah, great find there with the sort of diving deeper into, because the Spurs suck against players like Trae Young. They are not good against the pull-up this season, but this ain't going to be the same Spurs. You're not going to have Chris Paul at the top. You're not going to have any Trae Jones at the top. You're going to have De'Aaron Fox as the spearhead there, and I think that's going to be huge. You already pointed it out, how that has helped in the past to limit a guy like Trae Young. When you have a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who's a big guard, obviously that's quick enough, as quick as they come, as fast as they come in the league, so that he'll be able to handle that. And yeah, for all those that are still trying to bet on Onyeka Okongwu, I don't think that's the play anymore. I tried it once and immediately it was like, oh my word in heaven. Like, I don't know how his involvement is going to be maintained. This is not a man who can box out somebody who's 7'4", in my opinion. It doesn't matter how far you box him out. Wemby's going to be able to get over him and get those boards. And yeah, this is a great buy low spot for the Spurs, in short. So I love where your head's at. And there's a lot of good inner matchups that kind of help support this as well. But let me go to Utah, where by the way, Utah is like my favorite team in the league at this point. I'm betting on Isaiah Collier out here. I'm betting on John Collins. We got a lot of guys that we can win bets on here with some overs, but let's keep it in this game. I'm going over in the game, 226.5. We got Draymond Green coming back. He's probable, so this is going to be his return from roughly like a 10-game absence or so. And they're going to be pretty healthy outside of that. Obviously, Jonathan Kuminga's still not around, but that's going to be huge for them, because this team at least can play offense when it has its team, and it's playing it with pace when it has at least one of Draymond, Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins. Like, just they need somebody with that level of versatility to play alongside them, and that's been the case this season. It's been clear that, like, with Draymond, much faster, much better everywhere. 98 pace with Draymond versus a 96 without him. In part because, like, the guys getting the rebounds is like a Kevon Looney or a TJD. They're not necessarily able to make those plays that Draymond can make once he gets a defensive board, or at least leads the offense or the defense that way. They have a 113 offensive rating, 113.5 really with him, versus 111 without him. They are scoring 5 points more per game versus like 113 almost versus 107 when they're playing without Draymond this season. So yeah, the defensive rating gets a little bit better, but they allow the same amount of points per game with and without Draymond Green. It's the offense that takes a massive hit this season, a 5 points worse massive hit when he's not out there. Utah, super bad limiting above the break stuff. They are 4th worst limiting above the break threes. They are giving up the 4th most attempts as well. So right in the bottom 3 there for the percentage that teams are shooting against them. And they have been playing a lot faster, in part because they've had a lot of guys back in the last 10. They're playing with the 12th fastest pace during that time. So I do think that the emergence of Isaiah Collier, you're going to have Keontae George out there. No Colin Sexton, which does actually like hurt things for the pace, or at least the ability to get to the rim a little bit, but you're just going to have more shooters on the floor as well at that point. A little bit more Svi, a little bit more Keontae George, who is a complete liability on defense this season. Keontae George can't stay on the floor because of his individual offensive rating when he's out there. This team's his on-court numbers are brutal. 2 points per 100 worse when he's on the floor on defense this season. And like, look, I mean, that's just one player impacting things with 2 points per 100. That's a pretty big deal. And then Golden State can't really hang either, though. I mean, Utah is getting into the paint a lot. They have the number 1 paint frequency at this point, and everything that they do going to the rim, they are getting to the free throw line a good amount in the last 10. But mostly it's just that Golden State can't limit shots in the paint. They're dead last limiting shots. They're dead last the teams making shots against them inside the paint. So Isaiah Collier is going to wreak havoc again, as he did in this last game that he played against them. And then so is John Collins as well. When you have that athletic, versatile, good rebounding wing that can spot up and get to the rim, jump higher than anybody that's out there, because Kuminga's not out there for the Warriors, I think they're going to have some success scoring too. And I would actually be taking them to cover before I would be taking the Dubs with the points.
Yeah, we'll have to see who the Jazz actually play. I mean, they're listing Markkanen as questionable because he's on the block. Sexton out because he's on the block and he's injured. But I mean, I'm interested you're going this route because Draymond did play 29 minutes in the last one. It was against Orlando, but
Oh,
like,
right.
yeah, Warriors have been an under team. The Jazz have been an under team lately because they keep resting everybody.
Right.
So I mean, I would, yeah. What you mentioned about Keontae George perks my ears up because I think Steph probably goes off here and maybe he drags this to an over by himself. But yeah, I mean, is it just the pace? Because like the Warriors defense should be better with Dre in there, and I don't know how the Jazz are going to light it up. And this is a low scoring Warriors team right now.
It is. It's the Jazz pushing the pace. The Lowry thing is huge, but they still push the pace without Lowry. The defense for the Dubs hasn't really shown improvement with Draymond out there. That's really what this comes down to for me. The biggest impact that he's had is on offense and the ability to kind of keep the ball moving around the horn, which not everybody can do out there. So there's a lot of that for it. You're going to see a little bit less Gary Payton Jr. as well with Draymond out there. He is definitely a guy that leads you towards the under as well, mostly just because he can't shoot and plays such good D. So yeah, it's really about that. The total in itself is mostly about the pace for these two teams, and I think Draymond's impact on offense being a little bit better. But yeah, if Lowry doesn't play, this could be another scary one. And who knows, John Collins could randomly get called out as well at 2 p.m. today, and we won't know. So just stay tuned to all the stuff on the injury reports for that game. But for now, as things stand right now, if Lowry plays, I prefer the over, and we'll see. Definitely not the cover if Lowry doesn't play. I'll say that. So that's all the time though that we have for you in best bets. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. I think we'll be getting back into this game a little bit, the Utah Golden State game, in our player props episode as well. So until we see you there, happy betting.